Welcome to this short presentation on the 13 moon cycle and what is being offered in the upcoming course. I am really excited to have you here and feel that if you're here watching, it's for a good reason. Probably because you are ready to embark on this next step in your journey, because the 13 moon cycle is a framework and foundation that can support all spiritual traditions. And I probably don't need to tell you that these are very special times. As I am recording this now, we are ushering in the solstice and all the light and information that is streaming to us from our very active sun and the center of the galaxy. And I believe that this information is here to support us through these changing times and help transmute what's coming out of the shadows into light and love. And that's one of the reasons why it's so exciting to be starting the next 13 moon galactic cycle at this time. I'm going to share a little bit about how this program is different from others, and then I'll talk about the 13 moon galactic cycle and the calendar and how they're different from the Gregorian calendar, and then about how changing our frequency changes our lives. So let's start by talking about the program. This program is for beginners, and when I say beginner, you may have just started working with the 13 moon calendar, or maybe you're just hearing about it for the first time and interested in working with it. Or you could be like I was, and you had been working with it on your own for a while and felt like you were ready for the next step. I had been working with the calendar for about 4 years on an almost daily basis and was really ready to explore more. And I started looking for information online and purchasing some books from the Foundation for the Law of Time and from Stephanie South and 13moon.com, some of the places that have such beautiful offerings for us. But I was finding that most of them were either too detailed or too technical for me. They weren't, they weren't for beginners. They definitely weren't for where I was at the time, even though I had been working with the calendar on my own for a while. So I set the intention to learn with other people. And before I knew it, some people were asking to study with me. And I asked my teacher and friend, Elise Caparelli, who has much more experience with the 13 moons and the galactic system than me, and she agreed to co-teach a course with me. So we are just finishing up that first year cycle together, and now I'm going to be carrying the torch forward on my own and doing things a little bit differently. So, for example, this year we're going to have 2 options for participating. You can do a self-study version where you receive recorded teachings, handouts, and practices for working with the energies of each moon and integrating the updates that are coming to us. Or you can join a learning circle, and we meet monthly on Zoom sessions together, and those are recorded for your convenience. And you can listen to the recordings before the session, and then in our sessions, we'll really focus on talking about how the energies are moving through us, the practical ways that we're working with them and integrating them, and really help you focus on experiencing the energies and their impact on your life. The course is going to be structured in phases. We'll start in July. Of course, the day out of time, July 25th, is both the end of the previous cycle and the beginning of the new cycle. And then on July 26th, the magnetic moon of purpose energy moves into our awareness and our fields. And we'll learn how to consciously work with those energies, identifying them, seeing how they help support us, attuning to them, and collaborating with them. We'll do the same thing in August with the lunar moon of challenge, and then in September with the electric moon of service. And both groups will have access to a WhatsApp group so that you can have support throughout the moon and in between the sessions. So I'd like to talk a little bit about cosmic spirals and cycles as they relate to the 13 Moon Galactic Cycle. Most people understand that the Earth is rotating the sun, but a lot of people don't realize that the sun and the Earth, our whole solar system, are moving through space at speeds higher than we can imagine around the galactic center. So the sun itself is circling the center of the Milky Way, and scientists call this the galactic circle. And time itself is spiraling. Everything is a spiral. We know now that our hearts are spirals, and our hearts help us live in coherence to the areas around us. So imagine when you're centered in your heart and you're connecting consciously with the energies, and you're able to identify what those energies are and how they support you, what you can bring into your life, what you can bring into your service to yourself and to your service to others. And right now, we're in a very special point on the cosmic spiral. The scientists tell us that our solar system is lined up with the galactic center in a very powerful way, so that all of the various energies, the cosmic rays, the infrared lights, the known and unknown energies that pour out of the galactic center, including the 13 moon tones and the daily energies of the Jolkin, they're all coming to us in a way that is really exciting and new for humanity as it is now. They say that the last time our sun and our solar system, including the Earth of course, have been lined up with the galactic center in this way, there were dinosaurs roaming the Earth. So I invite you to just pause and take that in. The light and the information that are coming to us from the galactic center now, bathing all of Mother Earth and her children in it, contain information and blessings that haven't been seen on the planet since dinosaurs last roamed the Earth. And we need this, right? We're at a time where we can use all the support that we get. And yeah, just take that in. So these are some cycles of time. Over on the left is an example of the Gregorian calendar that most of the world follows. And you can see in those boxes, and you know from your own experience, there's really not much rhyme or reason to the Gregorian calendar. One of the first lessons in the course, we explain the Gregorian calendar and its history, and then we invite you to contrast it with the perpetual 13 moon calendar, which is shown here in color on the right. And you will learn to work with the 13 moon calendar in the course. You'll learn what the different colors mean for each moon and how to work with those, in addition to the tones for the moon. And if you wish, you can also work with the energies of the day. But the Gregorian calendar has introduced a rhythm that we're all attuned to. Everyone who's working with the Gregorian calendar is attuned to the rhythm and the mantras that it contains. It's an irregular frequency. It is not aligned and harmonious with the natural cycles of time. And a lot of people attribute many of the issues that we're having on our planet to the fact that we are attuned to an irregular mechanical frequency, and we are not mechanical beings. The Gregorian calendar has a time is money mantra, and this tick-tock, tick-tock, time is scarce frequency about it. Whereas the 13 moon calendar is perfectly synchronized with the cycles of the universe and has a beautiful frequency that you'll learn more about. Here is an example of the 13 Moon Galactic Cycle perpetual calendar, a little bit closer up, and you'll receive a copy of this as one of the handouts so that you can begin working with it. This is taken, of course, from the teachings of Jose Arguelles, the founder of Planet Art Network and the Foundation for the Law of Time. And there are 13 moons, as you can see, and they move in a spiral, just like time itself does. Each week has a different focus. The red week is a focus, the white week, the blue, and the yellow. They all have something special to focus on, and each day has its own plasma or its own energy that you can work with. And you'll learn how to do that if you wish in the course as well. The frequency here is a beautiful one. It's a 1320 frequency. 13 moons. There are 13 days in the wave spells. There are 20 frequencies that repeat over and over again in different variations. And I'm really excited about introducing these to you in the teachings and hearing how learning about this and working with it impacts your life. Because as we begin to work with the 13 Moon Galactic Cycle, it initiates a transformational realignment with the resonance of the natural world. Not long ago, I was at a retreat with my teacher who had come from China for his first retreat, Qigong retreat, Qi Science retreat in the US. And I remember he started the retreat by talking about how much of the disease that happens in our world, many of the health issues we have, are caused because we are not aligned with the natural cycles of life. And I remember thinking, here in the US and throughout most countries that have been touched by Western thought, we don't even know what the natural cycles of life are. We may have, an idea of sunset and sunrise and the seasons, but we don't know what it means to be in resonance of the natural world unless we are original peoples or have been studying with original peoples who, of course, are walking with the original principles and in harmony with the natural cycles of the world. So, learning about the cycles and working with them is much more than just learning information. It's really about changing our frequencies and observing how this changes our life. And as you work with the energies you'll realize the more you work with them, the more it must be experienced to be understood. So I'm going to share with you some quotes from students who are just finishing this 13 moon cycle class now. And I'm not going to read them to you, but if you'd like to pause this and read them yourself, you're welcome to do that. Here's the first one. And here's one from someone else. And she continues here. Here's another one. And this is the conclusion of hers. And there are more on the website if you would like to read some more. And I am available to answer any questions that you have, of course. So let me tell you a little bit about the program objectives for the first phase. You'll learn about the cycles of the universe and how our perception of time influences our lives. You'll have an opportunity to compare and contrast natural time and artificial time, recognizing the difference between the calendars we just looked at. And you'll discover how your mind transforms when your frequency changes. And you'll be able to observe how that changes your reality and impacts your life. We'll also celebrate the day out of time together, set intentions for the upcoming 13 moon cycle, and you'll be able to experience and feel how each of the 3 moons at the start of the cycle supports your intentions for the year. You'll also learn to differentiate between the lunar moon phases and the 13 moon galactic tones. You'll learn to identify and collaborate with the energies of the magnetic, lunar, and electric moons and their corresponding animal totems. And you'll receive a variety of practices for integrating the teachings and the energies. This is not just about receiving teachings. It's about applying what you receive to your life in a way that's beneficial to you and supportive. And I can't think of a better way to do that than in a collaborative learning circle. So you can learn more and register on the website. There's also a place where you can contact me if you have questions or if you want to learn more. I'm very excited to begin the next year, and I hope that you will join us.